Well, this is Baruch back again. The ultimate connection with God. A time like we are in right now. Today is the 17th day of Cheshvan. It's November 1st, 2023. 17th Cheshvan, 5784. War. We're at war. The main weapon of the Jew throughout all ages is prayer. Prayer, study of Torah, and spirituality to reach the founder of all, Hashem. So here's the ultimate connection with God. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran, we're back again. Now, I admit that this is my third time beginning this book. The reason why is because it's not something that I think that you learn, like in one reading. You have to get the book. It's available on Amazon. And you have to read it, and you have to read it again and again and again. Realize what's going on in your thinking and try to straighten it out. Now, I'm not a tzaddik, so I read this and I try to practice it on myself. I daven 3 times a day and I work on it, but I'm not really particularly good at it. So we're going to come and we'll start looking at this again. The ultimate connection with God. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran. So I'm just going to go over the topics that we mentioned in the previous shiurim. So the topic is that the mitzvah, the dav kubo, means to cling to God. This is talking about clinging to eternity. We are people who are, well, I'm getting older, so I guess some people will call me a senior citizen. So therefore, you would say that I could see that there's going to be an end here, not in the not too distant future. I'm not eternal, but there is something internal within me, and that eternality that's inside of me wants to cling to the ultimate Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the real truth of everything. So the first one is the mitzvah of the dav kubo, right? He talked about that. Then he talked about people who actually practice connecting in the strongest possible way to davek to Hashem, to connect with Hashem. What came out of it was now the B'nai Nevi'im, the school of the prophets, where actually people worked on this. It's not something that just flashed up out of no place. People prayed. Then he teaches a lesson here from Yecheskel and Eliyahu and Navi about their visions, about what they actually saw. And let's see what we're going to get to here. Now, this is the place that I wanted to come to, because to me, this is the ikar of my problems in terms of praying. So, coming into the synagogue, coming into the situation where if you practice Bezdin Chassidus, then you would be able to talk to Hashem, or want to talk to Hashem at any time, which is really what I feel like I'm trying to do here. So the first thing I need to do here is I need to calm my mind. Okay, we have to calm the mind. Then he says after that, this is the secrets of the prophets. So how one does this in a world that has constant strain in it, constant stress. But that's the idea here. He says, break through the internal resistance. We want to constantly, I think this means that we want to constantly feel like we have to keep fighting, keep preserving our lives, and concentrating on our bodies. We have to break through this resistance. And the last thing he says is this doesn't get accomplished in one day. Be persistent until the connection is achieved. Of course, the connection cannot be maintained because we're not eternal. So therefore, our bodily needs will come in. But we have to learn to balance that. And let's see what else Rabbi Mimran has to say. Now, this is our introduction. He says to calming the mind, calming the storm of the mind. Here it is up here at the top. So let's read on what he says. Calming the storm of the mind, he says, the compulsive thinker. This is part 1. The human mind is not a domesticated animal, but rather seems to have a mind of its own beyond the will of the thinker. Anyone who has ever tried to concentrate on a subject only to have his mind drift to other thoughts is aware of this. Imagine this in prayer. Sometimes it seems that the more one tries to control one's thought, the more they refuse to be controlled. It is strange that most people have never given a thought to their thoughts. Thoughts are so much part of our being that we take them for granted. One of the first steps in meditation, then, is learning how to not take our thoughts for granted. Now, the Hebrew word for the meditation he wants to say is devekus. That if we want to cling as much as we possibly can to the panemius of reality, which is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, then we have to go along this path. When we identify too strongly with our minds, our thoughts become compulsive. What a dreadful affliction it is to be unable to stop thinking. But the sad truth is that most of us are compulsive thinkers, and because we are surrounded constantly by our own mental chatter, we don't even realize how handicapped our compulsive thoughts make us. In fact, we consider that state to be normal. Static in our brains. Different kinds of fights in my brain, arguments, criticisms, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it's far from normal. It's not normal. Even though that it's customary, it's not normal. A mind that is constantly thinking doesn't allow you to reach that crucial state of inner stillness that you need in order to access the vitality of your own neshama, because there's an aspect of eternity within us, the place where your true normal self lives. He's used the word lies. So our normal self is here. That is the real self of us is covered over, he says, by this compulsive thinking. And there is more. Compulsive thinking creates a deceptive shadow that envelops you with fear and suffering. We will discuss this later, he says. He says, thus, almost every one of us, for most of us are compulsive thinkers, lives in a world that is impossibly complex, a world that is characterized by a stream of never-ending problems and conflict, a world which we are the helpless victims that we are, experience ever more severe fragmentation of the mind, and we're constantly going into this tangent, that tangent, back and forth, as we are pulled in far too many directions at once. All the overthinking we do catapults us into a state of perceived separateness, a feeling of me against the world. Well, I would say that's certainly true. Every one of us has to go to work. We work on something because this is the world of work. Can we step on the brakes? Can we break the habit of compulsive thinking, quiet our minds, and achieve not a state of separateness, but a state of connectedness? Connected to what? What a wonderful thing that would be, being able to connect it to eternity. Being connected means being at one with the world, at one with the life as you experience and understand it, at one with your deepest self, at one with your own neshama, and at one with your Creator. Being connected means being at peace, because in this state of conflict, conflict it becomes dissolved. Imagine a life without conflict. Just imagine this for a second, he says. It's definitely, he says, achievable. He says, let us set this type of life as our objective. Have patience. Have patience with yourself and with the process, as together, step by step, we can learn to make this our new normal state. We can do this. Well, those are words of really tremendous encouragement from Rabbi Mimran, who goes over this over and over, flying around the world and teaching this. He says, what a dreadful affliction it is to be unable to stop thinking. We don't even realize how handicapped our compulsive thoughts make us. This is Baruch Fleischman, and we've been listening to Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran of the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.